Good evening and welcome to the November 1st meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Section 40 of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 allows for the continuation of remote meetings. As such, this meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast on cable channel 15 and streamed online by FCTV. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. We are missing a couple of commissioners so far tonight. We're expecting a couple late additions. However, we have a quorum, so we're moving forward. Yep, Steve's the count man, he got it. All right, just a reminder for commenting. Well, let's just not comment over each other. Also that the votes have to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you'll be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the Commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the Act and or the bylaw do in fact apply. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you really want to hear a negative determination. For the benefit of anyone waiting tonight for a particular hearing, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following items are expected to be continued: 28 Drift Road and 25 Old Dock Road. And let the record show Courtney's in the meeting. Thank you.
Sorry to be late.
All right, first up, vote minutes, October 18, 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes. Patton.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept them as submitted. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of October 18. Thank you, Kristen. Next up is a request for a continuance under a notice of intent. Wendy Hill, 28 Drift Road, West Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with a deck and a balcony, install a pool, remove an existing cesspool, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, and install DCPC plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until December 6th.
Bird so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until December 6th. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until December 6th. Next up is our request for determination of applicability. First up is, I'm sorry if I get your name wrong, no disrespect intended, Justin Jaschke and Ann Gale, 157 Fay Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct follow-up invasive species management. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Patton second.
And
all right, we have a motion and multiple seconds to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Jeffrey Bright, 11 Pennsylvania Avenue, excuse me, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to renovate an existing dwelling down to the framing. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project is solely located in an AE flood zone.
Bird, so move. And thank
Patton
you for
second.
the flood zone.
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
Steve Patton.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion. Excuse me. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, the Falmouth Yacht Club, 290 Clinton Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to convert 300 square feet of deck into habitable space. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Patton second.
thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Harbor Head Tennis Club, Inc., 25 Old Dock Road, West Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install a bamboo root barrier. Ms. Bergeron,
Yes, this project was re-advertised. There's actually a second parcel involved that I neglected to include in the first advertisement, so you'll hear this next week.
okay. Do we need to vote on a continuance?
Yes,
So I'd like a motion and a second to continue this till next week.
Bird, so move.
Patton second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 11/8. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 11/8. All right, next up are continued requests for determination of applicability. First up, Angela and Joseph Celia, 95 Glen Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct an addition and after the fact permission to install 2 sheds and a patio, expand the parking area, remove vegetation from the flood zone and from the zone B to a wetland, and install a sand court. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Patton second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments?
Seems like a lot of work for an RDA.
Most of it's after the fact. The previous homeowner likely did not know they were in a zone B. The zone A is well vegetated, so they don't need to mitigate or anything. Just trying to get it all in compliance.
Okay,
Okay, that's good. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you, Alyssa, for all that. Next up are requests for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Windy Hill has been previously continued. That brings us to Robert Traina, trustee, Bridge Street Realty Trust, 34 Bridge Street, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, the existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with attached garage, porches, and deck, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, install mitigation plantings, and all associated grading, clearing, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Mike Borselli of Falmouth Engineering to present his project.
Good evening, Mr. Borselli. You're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant along with Ralph Cataldo of Cataldo Custom Builders, who's with me tonight if there's any specific questions about the house construction. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
I'll start off with just a plan of existing conditions. The applicant owns the property at number 34 Bridge Street. It's on the waters of Green Pond. It has a salt marsh on its frontage. It has an existing licensed dock. Landward of the salt marsh edge is a non-eroding coastal bank. We have shown the associated no disturbance zone A's and outer buffer zone B from both of these wetland resources. I'm showing you the existing house, deck, driveway, etc. Typical residential property. And the applicant has applied for permission to raise and reconstruct this house. I'm going to show you now the proposed house. The proposed house is superimposed on the existing house, which is shown for reference in the background as red lines. The new house has been shifted slightly landward and slightly to the south. The project has been designed to meet the performance standards within your resource area buffer section, FWR 10.18, specifically regarding redevelopment. First, the new house does not move closer to the wetland resources than the present primary structure. And secondly, any increases in impervious surfaces or pervious surfaces that won't support natural vegetation have been inventoried, and any increases must be mitigated for. So as I typically do, I have also attached the exhibits that demonstrate the impervious surface areas in the existing condition. They're shaded blue in the A zone, and they're shaded peach color in the B zone. That's the existing condition, and that was submitted with your package. And the proposed condition is also submitted. And when you break down the numbers, which we have tabulated in a summary, there there's a net decrease in the no disturbance zone A of 195 square feet. And there's a net increase of 321 in the B. So we, as we have done in the past, and we're proposing to do here, due to the decrease in A, we're taking a credit towards the increase in B, which results in a net of 126 square feet, and we applied a factor of 2 to that, which results in a requirement for 252 square feet of mitigation planting, and we're proposing 300 square feet of mitigation planting, and that area is shown in green on the plan, and it's shown in an area that will supplement the existing buffer to the salt marsh. So it'll widen the buffer to the salt marsh, and it's compensatory for the increases in impervious surfaces on the property. The existing house is served by a substandard septic system. The new plan proposes to install a Title V septic system as far away as possible from the wetland resources, far beyond 100 feet from the top of the coastal bank, and actually more than 150 feet from the salt marsh. There is a limit of work on the plan. Dry wells are shown for mitigation for roof runoff. And I think that pretty much sums up the project. We are proposing 1 tree for mitigation, because you require 1 for every 1,000 square feet of mitigation. So since we have a requirement for 252 square feet, we're proposing 1 tupelo. There were some comments from the staff. We reviewed the project with staff, and they appeared to be satisfied that the proposed house redevelopment meets your regulations. However, in their due diligence, they did discover some issues on the property with regard to the dock. And I'd like to just briefly touch on those, if I could, by first showing you an exhibit that identifies a place on the walkway to the dock that has been modified without permission. If you look closely at this, I'll even zoom in a little closer. Historically, the access to the dock was over a wooden walkway that I've shown here with a red line. In the recent past, the client and applicant received permission to redeck the dock through an RDA. And when he did that, he made modifications to the access to the dock that resulted in 2 things. First, it straightened out the main walkway to the dock. You can see that it's straight and projected straight out versus having this curve. He rebuilt that so that it was safer and less slippery, because this was timber, but it was sloped and it was very slippery. So he elevated it slightly and made landings with steps. The main walkway that was rebuilt is the same area as the old walkway. The problem is he made expansion of the walkway here to create a wider platform, and he added 2 storage lockers off this edge. None of that was permitted, and it's bigger. So your staff had concerns with that, and your staff had concerns with the fact that he also constructed a kayak rack off the side. So I advise my client that, and we talked about this with your staff, that the best solution would be to eliminate the portions that got bigger. The part that got straightened out is the same size and it's in place. It's actually probably environmentally improved because it is slightly elevated and it's not built right on the surface. And of course, to remove the kayak rack. So I emailed this to your staff today with their permission, although it's not on the record, to show you what the problem is. I also identified on this blow up in green the parts that would be removed so that the net result is effectively the same area while new and straightened out, the same. I believe that if he had applied for permission to do this, you could have and very likely would have approved that. I know you would very unlikely have approved this. So my client is gonna remove this. He's gonna take a saw to it and cut it off. So I wanted to review that with you because it was in a matter that your staff found. And I think that sums it up. I'm happy to take questions, and Ralph's here to take questions as well.
Thanks, Mike. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We reviewed the project. I don't think we have any issues with the proposed house. I think the only concerns we have was with the dock. Mike, can you do me a favor? Can you put that green rendering you had, the one you emailed us at around like
This one?
5:30? Yeah, that one, the one with the green.
Oh, I'm sorry, I gotta share, sorry.
It's okay. Do you know how many square feet that is? And if you said it and I missed it, I apologize.
I didn't say it and I didn't calculate it, but I would estimate that this is about 5 by 6, so 30 square feet plus probably another 20 square feet. So it's probably around 50 square feet.
Okay. The reason I ask is, if the board wanted to close this tonight, thank you, Mike, you can stop sharing. The recommendation from the staff would be that prior to the Conservation Department approving the building permit, that this issue be brought into compliance, meaning that the enlargement of the dock structure be removed, the area of the coastal bank that was altered be revegetated, and the kayak rack be removed, and if any necessary salt marsh plugs that all be completed before the approval of the building permit by the Conservation Department. That would be my only recommendation. Other than that, I don't have any other comments, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Ms. Bergeron,
Thank you. Yes, so we did talk to Mike about this yesterday. Just a couple notes on the staff comments, Mike. Tupelo is a great idea. It might need to be shifted a little outside the canopy. So I mean, that's something that we can discuss on site once the house is put into place. Maybe there'll be a slightly better location after that. We can always tack that in.
Yeah.
And just that the bank is clearly being cut over time. All of those plants were required to be installed at one point, which this current homeowner probably has no idea about because it was in the 80s. But since they are adding mitigation, just to note that none of those are to be cut without permission.
He has been made aware of that.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thanks.
thank you. Jen, clarification, would that additional dock work have been permittable?
I think the straightening of the dock, like Mike said, probably would have been permittable if you look at the pictures that Alyssa included in the staff report. think it's the fourth picture is what it currently looks like, and the fifth picture what it was. I think it might have been able to be approved. I can't really see in the picture what the bank looked like back then. I think it's reasonable to assume the board would have approved the straightening of the dock, but the additional platform and deck box areas, and certainly the kayak rack and the salt marsh most likely would not have been approved.
The additional square footage would not have been approvable.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I clarify one thing too? I've been
Yes,
being
sir.
told by Mr. Cataldo that the remedy to cut off the unpermitted parts would be about a 4-hour effort. And I also want to note that Mr. Cataldo or his firm had nothing to do with that work.
No, but I want you to post on YouTube when he's cutting it off with a sawzall. All right, so 4 hours of work, but you also have the restoration piece.
Yeah, yes,
Element of it,
of course.
just to be clear. Okay. Thank you for that. All right, commissioner comments. Betsy.
I have no questions or comments.
All righty. Courtney?
Couple of questions on the dock where it was moved out. Are we, is it appropriate for us to require some mitigation and in the very least restoration of the area that the dock was previously in and have been moved?
Courtney, that's what my recommendation would be if you issue an order of conditions, is to require the area to be restored. And if we just keep the straight part of it, it's it's at the same square footage, so we'd mitigate for,
Okay.
roughly 50 additional square feet, and we can ask Mike to get us that, to calculate that for us.
Yep.
And then we'll require the appropriate number of plants, and then we will go and determine in the field if any salt marsh plugs are required as well.
All right, that's fair enough. That addresses that concern. The only other question I have is you're putting in a brand new Title V septic system. And given the fact that the regs are about to change, I'm surprised you're not doing a denitrification system.
I can comment on that. If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Sir,
So
thank you.
based on my discussions in following of the local news with regard to these changes, this area of Falmouth is one of the areas potentially earmarked for sewer connection sometime in the future yet to be determined. They're working on their watershed permitting now. So as of right now, there's no plan to do an IA septic system. There's no requirement to do an IA system. It may become a requirement. And for that reason, we have designed this system so it can be retrofit. We left space between the tank and the D box, and we have proper pitch so that another tank that would be an IA component could be installed between the tank and the D box once there's more clarity on what the town's planning to do with the sewering. So he didn't want to go through the expense and then have the sewer come, sometime, who knows when, but, it could be within the next 5 years. We don't know.
That sounds like a very logical approach. You've answered my question. Thank you. I have nothing else.
Thank you. Jen, do we know of any grants available for IA systems now? Does the big coalition have anything?
The coalition, if they had anything, would be strictly in Buzzards Bay. This is Vineyard
Yeah, that's right.
Sound.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure if that program is still available. I can check, but I am not aware of any programs or if the state has a program to assist property owners with these conversions or required conversions. I think that is still very much in flux. But I can check with Scott McGann, the town's health agent, to see.
I did learn something on that, if I could interject. and I don't have all the facts, but something very fresh and recent came out. I read that the state is going to be offering tax credits towards some of these retrofits. The details I don't have. I read something very new today, and I think they're still trying to work it out.
Well, hopefully they'll work on something.
Yeah.
All right. Kevin,
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
all right. Steve?
Long expected rebuild in this neighborhood, and no questions or comments. I think this we got another great street. That's all I can tell you in a couple of months. Beautiful homes, and we didn't get in the butters list. That's my only little thing, or I didn't in my package. So, not to be too precise.
Thank you. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Yes, there is, Mr. Chairman. This is from Nancy and Jamie Mitchell at 28 Bridge Street. They have 2 questions and concerns. Will the new Tupelo restrict or block our view to the south of Green Pond and Vineyard Sound? I'm not quite sure where their deck is. I don't see it on Mike's plan. That Tupelo is going to be shifted as we discussed because it's underneath an existing canopy, and where we will shift it to might be on the south side of the property. But we're going to determine that in the field, and it won't be placed under an existing canopy of trees. So I guess my response is I'm not quite sure, but it's something when we work in the field, when we look in the field with Mike, we can take into account and try to place the tree where it won't be in a direct view corridor.
Yep.
But that said, there is no view easement, and the tree will need to go onto the property. And if it's unfortunately blocks a view, there is no view easement. But we will do our best to site it where it will be, allowed to grow into its full mature form and not be cut. Because that is the goal.
Yep.
And the second is there is a stand of Japanese knotweed on the northern part of the bank that has been invading our property. We would like to see a mitigation plan or removal plan of the knotweed. Mike, have you had any discussions with your client on the knotweed?
I have not.
You know where it is.
I think I know generally where he's talking about. I didn't focus on it too closely. I can speak to my client, and if it's something that seems reasonable and doable. I mean, we all know knotweed's not a good thing, and I always advise my clients not to let that get out of hand. So I'll talk to them about it, but I can't commit to doing any knotweed eradication at this point. I can only advise him that it's a good thing to do.
And there's nothing in our regulations that requires the removal of invasives at this point, Mr. Mitchell, so. You're welcome, sir. He says thank you. And that is all for the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mike, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point?
I do not. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Courtney?
My only comment with respect to the knotweed would be that it would make a lot of sense for the 2 owners to get together and perhaps agree to jointly work on that problem. And I would hope that Mike and you can see about pushing that along.
I will work on that.
No other questions.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
Do we have a DEP number?
Oh, we did not,
Oh,
as of close of business, we did not have one.
then we cannot close this hearing.
Can we continue it just for the 1 week? And
Absolutely. Let me just double check to make sure it didn't come in late. Mike, were you trying to sneakily close this hearing without a
I
DEP number?
totally forgot. I totally forgot.
I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing you. Okay, obviously I don't have it bookmarked. I have no idea why. Oh, sorry about this. 1 second. Are you? Portal.
While we're waiting.
Lori would have been all over
I'll
this.
move my second to close.
Nope, it hasn't come in, Mike. So let's continue
make
this
it-
1 week.
Yeah, I
Make a
Again.
motion to, I'll make a motion to continue this till November 8th.
Third second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till next week for the purpose of obtaining a DEP number only. All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Third eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Matt and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 11/8 for the purposes of a DEP number. Thank you, Mr. Borselli. Thank you, Mr. Cataldo.
Thank you. Thank
Good
you all.
night, Mike. Good night, Ralph.
Have a
Good
good
night,
night.
guys. Thank you.
Only one, Mike.
Only one.
All right, next up, Stephen Howlett, 10 Inlet Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct an existing licensed dock. Ben,
I am promoting Mark Dibb, who was the only one from Cape and Alice Engineering here this evening, so I'm assuming he is presenting this to present the project. Hello, Mark.
Good evening. How's everybody?
We are good.
So for the record, Mark Dibb, Cape and Islands Engineering, on behalf of the applicant Stephen Howlett for a notice of intent to rebuild an existing pier ramp and float at 10 Inlet Lane in Falmouth. With your permission, I would like to share my screen.
yes, sir.
So the on the overall plan, the overall detail on the left side shows the entire site. It's a rather large 2.32 acre site, kind of a pork chop off of Inlet Lane. Driveway comes into an existing house, to an existing path, and the pier is located on this part of the property on the Moonachus River. I'm going to slide over to the detail portion of the plan. So first go over the resource areas and then go over the proposal. On the site where it's bordered on the Moonachus River, which is resource area of landowner water. We also have a freshwater wetland in this area, BVW flags, to delineate the upland side of that. There is an inland bank along the same area, as well as we are in the ACEC and a riverfront area. All those things do exist at the site. What also exists is a previously licensed and existing small pier. It's in very poor condition right now. The license is active, however, and we're proposing to reconstruct the pier in exactly the same location. And actually, we're going to reconstruct it exactly in the same configuration of the license, which is actually shortening up the float and ramp portion of the project. We are proposing some environmental improvements. Basically, we're planning to the entire fixed pier portion is only about 14 feet long. So we're trying to raise it elevation wise a couple feet as well as we would provide graded decking on that area over the freshwater wetlands. There'd be a ramp back down. And then as well, the float would have float stops to keep it approximately 6 inches off the bottom to keep it from bottoming out. We do have to, per the regulations, we do have to rebuild it basically in the same footprint. So, you know, existing water depths are not ideal, but we do plan to add the float stops to keep that float from being off the bottom. Again, the license was issued for an existing structure back in '96. You know, we do, plan on the graded decking and trying to make as many improvements as possible for environmental, and as well as just getting the dilapidated structure out of the water and getting something more structurally sound that should hold up better during the next over the next few years. That is my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Stop sharing.
Thanks, Mark. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just one question, one comment. I remember with working with Mr. Howlett over the last year or so, trying to track down the chapter 91 for this and the permitting history for this dock. My only question would be, because you're raising it and everything, do you have to go to for a modification from chapter 91, a minor modification?
I talked to Brendan over at DEP,
Yeah.
and we would go for a minor modification, not a chapter 91 amendment.
Okay.
Just a minor. He said he can, if we're showing environmental improvements, he can do it under a minor modification.
Perfect. Excellent. That's good to hear. And just a comment, before some of my commissioners comment on you, Mark, your staking and signage was lacking. This was kind of a tough little area to find. I mean, so just in the future, if, even though I know it's a dock, we're just repairing it, if you could just, especially since it was down this long winding path, just a few stakes, kind of, you know, so the commission's not wandering around all over the place, trespassing on other people's property. If we could just signage and guide them to where they need to go on the property, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you. And that is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Bergeron?
Thank you. Just one comment. We are in receipt of the RDA from 96. Mark sent it over this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Commissioner comments? Courtney?
This one have a DEP.
No comments.
All right. Mark, I'm gonna be the bad guy. Jen stole my thunder.
I was trying to help you out, Mark.
Those stakes, you're gonna get a continuance next time. This is ridiculous. I mean, there wasn't one single thing on there. You didn't have a sign out, and I always tell everybody that you guys have the best signs. I lied. So you had no sign, no stakes. The path wasn't marked. I'll go on and on and on, but that can't keep happening. So spread that around your office. From now on, continuances. I didn't see any sign. You have a note on here, existing sign, public access way. One, I didn't see any access. Two, I didn't see any sign. So I don't know if that's permittable to have a path going around the dock, but it needs to be accessible. It needs to be marked. So that has to be a condition. Jen, is there enough water under there? I mean,
It was an existing dock, Mr. Chairman. They do have the right to repair it. It is the water depths are not ideal. But this has been in existence. They would not be able to put a dock in the ACEC today.
yeah, that's what I thought. All right, and the float stops only being 6 inches. That's okay. That's acceptable.
That with the water depth over there, yes.
Okay. All right.
Mark, do you have a DEP number? Do you know? I'm trying, for some reason, I can't bring up the portal right now.
I do not see one, unfortunately.
Let me just double check.
And if I can just make two notes, yeah, that was a procedural failure on the signage, so we will continue to work our best on signage. And the public access is what's on the license plan, so there'll be notes, or there'll be the appropriate signage per chapter 91 on public access under the constructed dock. Don't see a DEP sign.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. And just Mark, to follow up on Jamie's comments, if you can, and we'll send out yet another email. 10 Inlet does have a DEP number 4907. If you guys can get the staking done and the signage done when you drop the notices of intents off to our office, given that we're short-staffed, you know, if we're in the area, we're going to jump on the site. So having it staked when you guys file with us is really important at this point in our office. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
If not, it's an automatic continuance. So Jen, if you would put that in that email,
Yep. And I will.
maybe they'll get it this time. All right. Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Steve.
I don't have any questions. I agree with your comments, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad I drove down the driveway. I'll just say that it was a nice walk as it was, but it would have been quite a walk.
Great property. All right, Betsy.
No questions, thanks.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat for this project, Mr. Chairman.
All right, what are you thinking, folks?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting. This is to close the hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Third, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Dibb.
Thank you.
Good night, Mark. Thank you.
Good night.
All right, next up is a continued request for a hearing under a notice of intent. Stephen Leaf, 0 Wacoit Highway, map and parcel number 27-07-009-000, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a single-family dwelling on an undeveloped lot. And Alyssa, I have the quorum as all of us tonight because this has not been previously opened. All right. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mike Ball of Marsh Matters Environmental up to present his project. Hello, Mike.
Hello, everybody. Mike Ball for your record. Mike Ball from Marsh Matters Environmental. I'm a wetland scientist and regulatory consultant. I'm here representing Steve and Janice Leaf of Wacoit Highway, who own the property next door to the subject property at 116 Wacoit Highway, just so that's clear. We submitted notice of intent back on September 19 with a set of plans, and we were in receipt of staff comments, which were very good and comprehensive, but we needed a little bit of time to reevaluate proposed project layout and staff comments. So what you should have before you is a revised plan with date, I believe, 10/19. That was done by Engineering Works, and a cover letter that I prepared that touched on some of the comments that addressed the staff report. Again, I appreciate the staff report. The second one was actually more comprehensive than the first, which is always helpful. Not many conservation commissions on the Cape spend that much time reviewing projects and providing information. So I do truly appreciate that. I do have with me both Steve Leaf Sr. and his son Steve Leaf Jr. And I know Steve will have some comments as well, but I'll just summarize the project very quickly. This is a single family house construction project on an undeveloped 2-acre lot that abuts the Childs River.
Excuse me,
It
Mike,
is
do you
very
have a
long.
plan? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Mike, do
let
you
me,
have- can you share your plan for
yeah,
the board, please?
I'm going to share
Thank
my
you.
screen and see if I can bring this up. Second here. Oh, shit. Can you see that? Can you
Not
see-
Not yet.
You can?
Oh, yes. Now we
Okay,
can.
fantastic. Okay, so this is this sheet plan kind of, the first sheet kind of draws the whole property so you can see it with respect, you can see the project with respect to all the resource areas, those being inland bank associated with the river. We've got a FEMA flood zone. We've got inland bank, as I mentioned. We've got coastal bank. And as you know, the ACEC includes the Childs River up to elevation 11. So this shows the riverfront area, 200-foot limit here. After talking with the Leafs and planning this project, we thought, given current existing conditions and adjacent houses, we thought it was a reasonable proposal to propose work in the riverfront area such that the proposed footprint would be roughly equivalent to the location of their existing house along the river and also to an adjacent house upstream, which is not shown on this plan. The second sheet is just is more zoomed in. It shows some additional detail, like the dry wells that are, I think there are 6 of them that are being proposed, or actually 7 of them that are being proposed to infiltrate roof runoff. And it just gives you more information on the septic system component locations. And the third sheet that Engineering Works provided was just their septic system profile. But I think the real conversation is the work in the riverfront area. You know, being an elongated property from the river to the highway, you know, the elephant in the room is basically that, yes, this project could be located completely outside of the riverfront area and be considerably closer to the road. But we felt, and I advised the Leafs that it was worth proposing a project that alters riverfront area up to near to the maximum amount for a couple of reasons. As you're aware, at 310 CMR 10.584, under the no adverse impact provisions, you can, specifically, the commission may allow work up to 5,000 square feet of impact. We're proposing 4,637, as long as 4 standards are met. The 100-foot wide area of undisturbed vegetation must be provided. This project does that. It actually provides more than that, 140-foot zone of undisturbed vegetation. You must manage stormwater according to standards established by the department. We feel that incorporating the dry wells to take in all roof runoff does indeed manage stormwater adequately. The riverfront, the work in the riverfront area must not impair the capacity of the riverfront area to provide important wildlife habitat functions. In this case, there are no cavity trees. I have done an inspection of the site. While there are trees in that work zone, there are no specimen trees that have cavities in them. We're not altering, say, you know, turtle nesting habitat. I inspected the canopies of the trees for any large nests. I didn't see any of those. What I would like to do is, if I can just share just my set of pictures that I took today. Can you see these photos?
No, we see your
Yeah.
plan.
Okay, hold on a minute. You share. Can you see this photo?
No,
Nope,
Hold on. Let's see.
yes.
yes.
You do? Okay. There we go. So what I did is I wanted to really highlight the area in which the proposed work is happening in the riverfront area. So what you'll see in this photo is yellow flagging, which basically I extended from the edge of the riverfront area along the work limit in the riverfront area all the way around to the other side of where the limit of work meets the riverfront area boundary. So this just gives you some idea of the area in the riverfront area that we're proposing to alter. I think it gives you a good idea of what the habitat looks like. And I just thought it was important because when I went out there without this flagging and this linear flagging in place, it is kind of hard to kind of get a sense of what we're talking about in terms of riverfront alteration. So I thought it was important to show you these photographs. Let's see. I'm going to go back to the site plan. There we go. So like I said, in our revised plan, we did drop the amount of alteration within the riverfront area by 351 square feet. So we drew everything back 10 linear feet, which brought the limit of work back, brought the whole structure back. And we thought this would partially address some of the concerns. It may not address all, but this is what we thought we would approach you with. We are proposing, obviously, a Title V septic system that's sized for a 4-bedroom house. Let's see, I think with that, I'm gonna, if with your permission, I'd like Steve Leaf Jr. to provide any comment. Is that possible?
Yes.
Mike, I need you to stop sharing your screen so I can promote Mr. Leaf up.
Yep, I've stopped.
Thank you. Thank you for raising your hand, Mr. Leaf. There are 2 of you here, and I was just going to ask you to raise your hand. I wasn't sure which Stephen Leaf to promote.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Leaf.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank the commission for the time. I am Stephen Leaf Jr. I am son of the applicants, Stephen and Janice Leaf. I just want to say a few quick words on their behalf because this matter does mean a great deal to the family, but mostly because they're probably sitting at home cursing at the computer screen trying to figure out how to work the Zoom meeting. So they're great people, but technology is not their strong point. The history on this land dates back to 1977 when my parents purchased and moved into 106 Wacoit Highway. About 10 years later, they acquired this parcel in 1988. Since that date, we've gone to great lengths to hold and preserve the land. And it would be hard to understate how much they care for their lives living on Childs River. As we described it in the letter, converting the existing home at 106 Wacoit to an age-in-place residence was unfeasible. Therefore, our goal here is to build a handicapped adaptable home where they can enjoy their hard-earned retirement. This location is significant for a few reasons. In the proposed location, we can use the natural topography of the land, which allows us to have a partial walkout basement for the future handicapped access without needing to make major adjustments to the grade. Whereas if we did push the house further towards the road, it would require much more excavation, regrading, additional retainage structures, and just generally altering the natural landscape. Pushing the house forward would also mean the removal of significantly more trees and shrubs, many of which that we had planted over the years to try to help create a tree screen between us and the highway. It also raises some serious concerns for the safety and well-being of my parents during their retirement if they were closer to the road. And lastly, when considering a full market price paid for the land in 1988, 35 years of subsequent real estate taxes paid to the town, we would foresee a material economic detriment to this asset if we were required to move this house closer to the highway. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir. Jen,
Mike, are you all set?
I am.
Okay. Mike's stated about the no significant impact. The board may take into account no significant, let me get this wording right. The no significant adverse impact when the board accepts the alternatives analysis. That has not been done yet. The way DEP has always explained it to me in its training is you follow the alphabet, A, B, C, D. You go through the regulations. You don't skip from A to D. What Mike is leaving out is you need to cite a project in Riverfront outside the riverfront to the maximum extent practicable. And in both letters from Marsh Matters, it is stated that yes, it is practicable to site this house out of the riverfront area. Is just not desirable to the applicant, unfortunately. Even if we pull the house closer to a Quoit Highway, it is still approximately 210 feet from the highway. Even if we pull it outside the riverfront, the house is closer to the river than it is to a Quoit Highway. So unfortunately, the staff recommends that this project be pulled completely out of the riverfront because it is practicable to do. I really don't believe shifting it 60 feet is going to be an economic detriment. We were talking 50, 60 feet. The way the house is configured, the garage extends in front of the house. So when we're pulling it out, we're not even counting the garage, we're counting the house. And again, it is still closer to the river than it would be to a Quoit Highway. So it is practicable to site the house outside of the riverfront area as required in the Wetlands Protection Act and the Riverfront Act. And I think, that's all that really is as simple as that. There was a project down the road. The board denied it because it was not pulled outside of the riverfront. There was a superseding issue issued by DEP, and DEP required the structures to be pulled out of the riverfront. So unfortunately, the staff is just going to recommend that the board require the project be redesigned and the house be pulled out of the riverfront in accordance with the WPA and Riverfront Act. I think, Mike, you had said that the no build option is not practicable. Agree. The property owners have been paying, as a buildable lot. I agree. They should be able to build a house. But this is a very deep lot, and it is, again, practicable to site it outside of that riverfront area. We could go through all the different comments and everything, but I really don't think it's necessary unless you want to get into the nitty gritty. I just think it just simply boils down to you again stated in both your letters, it can be done. And it can be done and still be 200 plus feet from Quoit Highway. So I don't feel that pulling it out of the riverfront is going to move it so much closer to Quoit Highway that it is going to pose a significant risk to the applicant. I think it's as simple as that, Mr. Chairman, unless we want to have a further discussion on it.
okay. Well, that's good for now.
Okay.
You're good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ms. Bergeron.
I have no additional comments. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to start, Mike. That ribboning that you showed that you just did today, that green ribboning, that would have been helpful if it was there, at the beginning. Your staking is a little lacking. You probably heard my last comments, so try to work on that, signage, that sort of thing. That was something that came up a couple weeks ago. Steve.
Mr. Chairman. We've been in this neighborhood for a while. The contours of this site do make Mr. Ball's comments worth consideration. Pulling the site back, although I know we don't make exceptions for individual homeowners. I understand the staff's comments and the regulations, but I am sympathetic, let me say, and I don't have any questions.
Betsy.
I have no questions. Thanks, Jamie.
Courtney. You're on mute.
I'm sympathetic to Steve's and the Leafs' desire to site the house where they do want to, but unfortunately, I think we're faced with the reality of the regulations, and so I kind of substantially agree with Jen's analysis that while pulling it back 60 feet is not the ideal from the standpoint of the client, if that makes it work with the regulations, and then that seems to be the alternative, the only alternative. And I fully empathize with what they're trying to do, but you're faced with the reality of the regulations, and we can't make exceptions, unfortunately, to it. Unless they want to apply for a variance, and I'm not sure that's those are hard to come by.
Yeah, if I can clarify, Courtney, Mr. Bird, there would be no variance involved in this. It's basically it's exercising an issuing authorities' ability to approve work in the riverfront area, given the information in front of you. So I think that's what we're certainly not seeking a variance. But it probably makes sense to, and I'll let the other commissioner speak in a second. I'm just thinking, listening to Jen's comments, is that we probably want to kind of relook and enhance our statement of alternatives in discussions with the Leafs, and possibly consider refining the design even further. I do, in my professional opinion, there is flexibility here to allow work in the riverfront area, even though there's a practical alternative to keep it out, and that's under the no significant adverse impact. That's my understanding of the regs. I've done similar projects where commissions have been comfortable with the standards under 310 CMR 10584 D1 through 4, and I think in this case we meet those standards. But I fully understand Jen's position on the fact that this house could easily just be moved all the way back, and obviously we know that the Leafs would not like to do that. I think it would be great to have an opportunity to kind of to think about this a little bit more, and provide some additional information specific to the alternatives analysis.
I'll finish my comment then. I'm fine with your wanting a continuance and exploring the alternatives more. I think you want to exhaust every possibility. Jen has just made the regulation pretty clear, and has suggested a simple alternative that sort of fits the bill. So if you feel differently, then you have every right to ask for a continuance and see if you can come up with something that's more saleable. No
Good,
other
Courtney.
questions. Yeah.
All right. Kevin.
I would, I would hate to see them ask for a continuance, but I couldn't approve it as currently put forward because there's too many solutions that satisfy the regulations.
Well, we'd have to certainly.
Excuse me, sir.
I'm sorry,
Excuse
Mr.
me.
Matthews. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Kevin?
Now, that's no other comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Steve, did I see your hand up?
No, sir, I was just helping you. I'm sorry.
All right, then I think I saw Mr. Leaf Senior.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to attempt to promote Mr. Leaf Senior. They do want to address the board.
Do we want to have Betsy comment first?
Betsy already commented, Courtney.
I'm
She
sorry.
had no comments.
Thank you, co-chair.
Mr. Leaf, you'll need to turn on, yep, there you go. And if you have a camera, you should be able to turn on your camera as well. Excellent.
There they are.
This isn't easy for us, believe me.
I
You're
told you
doing
guys this is-
great, sir. You're
No, we're
doing
not.
great.
This is,
Get a gold star.
this has been very stressful. I mean, to put it mildly. I mean, you've read the letters. We've been here forever. Lived here since 1966. Tried to be a good steward of the property, good citizen of the town. I was a town meeting member for 20 years. I think we've tried to do everything right. And now we're just asking for a little bit of consideration. We've lived here for so long. We know for a fact that the closer you get to Route 28, the less of the quality of life. It's a fact. The further you make us move the house away from the river, the more trees are going to have to be cut down. If you walk the property, it's many more trees towards Route 28. So if you're concerned about trees, then 3 times as many is going to have to come down to accommodate this. We're just asking for a little bit of consideration. I don't think we're asking for too much. I don't know what else to say. I just have to give you my 2 cents. And my wife is a basket case about this. This is one thing we've tried to do our whole lives. I've been a contractor my whole life. I know I can't remodel this house. We looked into it. It would end up being a tear down. The best solution was to build something brand new so it could age in place. In the topo of the land, the way we're positioning the house now lends itself perfectly for a walkout basement, just that back corner of it. We move it further away, that option is off the table, but it would just be, I don't even think doable, which really hurts all of that lower space as far as having any natural light or access. So I would just hope that you would consider our issues. Go ahead.
We just want to continue to live like we have here in an environment that we've loved and we've taken care of. And that's all we're doing. We have planted more trees than anything, and we've always kept this natural here. And we're just heartbroken that we can't continue the way we've lived here. So that's.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Only that the Leafs would like to speak, so nothing more in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Ball, do you have anything to add at this point?
Yeah, I apologize for interrupting any commission members that's unlike me. I just think that listening to the concerns, I think there is an opportunity for us to relook at the plan, reconsider alternatives, and provide the commission with another iteration of this project. That iteration may be completely pulling it out of the riverfront area. The reason I'm suggesting a continuance because I think I sense that if someone were to make a motion to approve the project and it didn't pass, then then we have to start from square one. And I think it would be a lost opportunity to not be able to recircle back with the Leafs, with the plan, with the engineer, with the regulations, and see if we can come to something that we think might be mutual agreeable between all the parties. Again, that may mean pulling everything back. That may mean pulling things back another 10, 15 feet. I think you've heard the sincerity from the Leafs and what their desires are, and I'm just trying to facilitate and be that middleman between you and the Leafs. And that's all the comments I have.
All right. I mean, that's a smart move. I think, you know, if you can do some research into the alternatives that, you know, give us a reason to allow it. I mean, it's just the regulations are the regulations. Mr. Leaf Jr., do you have anything to add at this point?
No, just that, you know, we really do appreciate the commission's time. And I think, you know, looking into this process and looking at the mission statement to protect and conserve the plants, the animals, the natural communities that are dependent upon the wetlands, the resources of the town of Falmouth. You look at this land, you know, how rare is it to have a family own, you know, acres along the waterfront, not develop it, keep it natural. You know, we want to do the right thing. We want to be good stewards of the land. We want to find a balance so that my parents can continue to, you know, live where they feel safe, which is far away from the highway and within sight of the river. So we thank you for your time, and we'll be back working through Michael Ball.
And I'll just add in staff, thank you staff, because I know how much time you put into your staff reports, and it is helpful to have it spelled out, your opinion, just like a consultant provides his opinion. It is very helpful to have that in advance so that there can be really good discussion. So thank you.
All right.
Mike,
Thank
how
you.
long do you
Oh.
need? Our
Excuse me,
next hearing would be the 29th of, I'm sorry, Jamie.
Mr. Leaf Senior.
Yes.
Something you
Yeah.
want to add?
No, I don't. The other thing is, which is, am I still speaking?
Yes.
If you saw the plan, the closer we move the house that much closer to Route 28. It'd be hard to get like a curve in the driveway, which we have on our existing house, which is much nicer. We don't get a direct shot of Route 28. We move it that much further to 28, it's going to be a lot harder to have the driveway give us some privacy instead of having a straight shot back from Route 28, the busiest street in town. I mean, it affects everything. It's not just moving it because we have the land. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jen.
Mike, the 29th, the 6th, or the 13th? I think those are our choices for you. We don't meet for the next week. We don't meet the 15th or the 22nd because obviously the holiday, and then we have town meeting on the week of the 15th. So our next would be 29th with the plans and any sort of alternatives analysis due to us no later than the 22nd. Is that doable, or do you want me to kick it out to December 6th or December 13th?
I think the 29th gives us, with a submittal, the date of new information on the 22nd gives us time.
Okay.
So I request continuance to the 29th.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
All right, I'm looking for a motion in a second.
So at the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this to November 29th.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to continue this until 11:29. Any other questions or comments? Going once, going twice. Steve?
Would you leave that yellow tape up? And would you mind if I came back to your site?
Anytime, and I'd be more than happy. I just, feel
Thank you,
free.
Mr. Chairman, that was it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's good. All right. So you just heard if anybody wants to revisit the site, have at it. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until November 29th. We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until November 29th. Thank you, Mr. Ball. Thank you, Mr. Leaf
Thank you.
Senior. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. Leaf.
Thank you.
Thank you all very
Thank you.
much.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
Right.
All right, next up. Vote orders of conditions. Mark and Cynthia Albers, 0 Great Bay Street. Parcel number 46A-15-000-000B, East Falmouth, Mass. And the quorum is all of us present.
Yes, this is the basically nourishment over the core fiber array that is over at Great Bay. Second. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm just looking at something real quick. The plan, Mike revised the plan to just show a small area. There was some concern with a large amount of sand being placed. That won't be the case. I do think, what did Mike say? 10 to 20 cubic yards?
I have a note of 15. So
15,
that's
yeah.
10
So,
to 20.
yeah, 10 to 20 cubic yards of sand. We did meet out there with the town MES staff just to get a greater comfort level of the project. So I would approve 10 to 20 cubic yards of sand initially. I think they should be required to come back if they wanted to do it again. I think we would need an additional survey, or at least have a survey that says how much sand would be required if they were to come back. So I would recommend an initial placement of that 10 to 20 cubic yards to try to further stabilize the site. I mean, the site is doing well. If they add the sand, hopefully the beach grass will colonize that area as it's done with the rest of the array. And hopefully we won't have to place any more sand on it again, but that if they do want to come back next year or the year after to place sand, that there's a calculation done on how much sand they need to place.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Steve? All right, just got it. All right, anything anybody else want to see in there? All right, what are you thinking?
Make a motion to to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right. We're voting to issue an order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Last motion, who wants it?
I move to adjourn.
I second that motion. Pat,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye.
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 Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Night,
you.
everybody.
Good night.
Aye.
I'd like to
Aye.
again thank Krista for the minutes. I try to find something to comment on, I swear, but I can't.
They're
It's not
good.
worth it.
Good night, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.